Microsoft just released its new official Power BI MCP, and this is a big deal because it can do so many cool things. Right now, I've used Visual Studio Code to connect to Power BI, my actual desktop version, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to modify this SVG KPI card. This whole thing is an SVG, and I'm using a user-defined function to do it, and I have basically called a single prompt that says, find this measure and modify it to be a measure instead of being about likes to be about followers. This is social media data. So instead of likes, look at followers. Use this specific icon that I'm, it's like referencing. Use forest green and light gray and neutral color black. And instead of having this, it's like bar chart, let's try a smooth dumbbell chart without points. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just giving this single prompt with a little bit more context. And what it does is it's able to modify this in real time. I have not closed the file and refreshed it or anything like that. And it's just working as if by magic. I'm going to show you how you can set this up and how you can get started right away, because this is actually really, really easy to do. So I don't expect this to be the longest video, but I'm going to show you a couple of things that I found in my first couple of days of trying this out. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do is probably read the Power BI November 2025 feature summary. And if you scroll down to the modeling section, there's this Power BI MCP server. This is in preview. It is the official one from, it's like Microsoft, but because it's in preview, expect things to change relatively quickly. The way that it actually works is that you as a Power BI developer are going to be able to create just, a natural language request. You can just ask the AI to do something, and that AI is going to be able to talk using your model context protocol, which I'm just going to show you how to do in just a second. And it can connect to either your Power BI desktop, your semantic model in your Power BI workspace, or a PBIX project, which is a special kind of Power BI file. And it can do quite a lot, and it's really easy to set up, but there's a couple of things that you're going to need. First things first, you're going to want to download Visual Studio Code. This is what I'm using, so it's going to be, it's like pretty easy to follow along if you just have this as well. You can absolutely use this MCP with other, it's like AI terminals like Claude Desktop, but from Visual Studio Code, one thing that's really nice is that you can just download Github Copilot and Github Copilot Chat as additional extensions. And you can just do that. If you download a Visual Studio Code, you can literally just go into extensions and you can search for these things. So I can just find the Power BI model context, it's like Power BI modeling MCP server. What a mouthful. I can download this server, it's like as an extension. So I just click on this and download. That was literally all that I had to do to get this on my Visual Studio Code. I can get Copilot. If I search for Copilot, then I should be able to find GitHub Copilot here, and that's installed. I'm going to enable this in the workspace, and I have GitHub Copilot Chat as well, and that's basically all of the extensions that you need. There are paid versions of GitHub Copilot, but I'm simply using the free one, and it's working like a charm for me. One thing that you're going to want to do is basically to actually toggle your chat, you're going to just need to click this, and you can just turn this on and it'll allow you to toggle your chat. You're going to be able to configure your chat with different custom agents, prompt files, chat instructions, etc., etc. Lots of different things that, although going through them would be, it's like really great, I still want this to be a quick start guide, so you don't need to worry about most of that right now. Once you have all of these extensions started, you can literally just click on this, it's like icon here to start a chat, or just, it's like click the drop down and open chat. And once you've opened chat, you want to click this button, which says configure tools. Configure tools is going to, it's like show you what you can actually do. And you want to make sure that Power BI modeling MCP, that's connected, because those are the different functions, the actual, the actual API keys that's going to allow Power BI to talk to AI directly. If you want to learn more about this, I will have all of these links in the description, and there's, it's like information about how to manually install it for, it's like different clients. And it's really great, as well as they have, it's like different example scenarios that you can go through. But first, what we're going to do is we are going to try to connect a new version of this into my Power BI desktop, and I'm going to show you exactly how easy that is. So I like to, instead of having open chat, I like to open new chat editor, because then it's in the editor space in Visual Studio Code, and you can generate different instructions and add context and all of those things. But the first thing that you want to do is make sure that the option is selected to agent. When you actually download, Copilot chat, I think it'll be on ask, and ask is a read only state. So it's only going to read, it's like your code, and I want it to modify things. So you have to set it to agent. It is also possible to set it to different, models. Even in the free version, you can, it's like connect it to ChatGPT 4.1 or 5 mini or whatever. I think 5 mini is the one that I've been defaulting to. It works pretty great for me, but it's also okay just to leave it to auto. The first prompt that we're going to do is, right now I have a file. My file is called UDF-v3 because this is a Power BI file that I am, so let me show the name, UDF-v3. So all I'm going to do is say, using the Power BI MCP, connect to Open Desktop UDF-v3. Now, one thing that I found is sometimes if you try to say connect to Power BI, connect to this, connect to that, it's not always 100% sure if it will get it right. If you say open to connect to the Open Power BI, it doesn't know if you're talking about the Power BI desktop, the, it's like Fabric workspace, or something else entirely. So right now, what it's doing is it's understanding that I am talking specifically about desktop. I am specifically talking about this file, and it's able to run a specific connection operation for this. The reason you have to specify this is that if you have, okay, so right now you might have seen that I have other extensions, it's like here, and we were just looking at the tools, right? I have a Python extension as well because I was doing some stuff in Python. If I did not specify, it's like use the MCP, then it might have tried to create a Python file to try to identify which, it's like instance of my file is open and things like that. And that is kind of annoying. So you have to be a little bit more specific. Using the Power BI MCP, connect to Open Desktop with the file name. Another thing that you'll find is that right now I have things that are auto approved. So you can see that I've, it's like auto approved some connection operations. So what that means is there's a lot of different things that the MCP is going to ask you to do. Some of these things like connection operations and measure operations, I've just allowed for the session so that I don't have to click accept and allow for every single one. But in general, when it's your first time, it's like loading this up, check to see what it is. When it's saying ran connection operations, when you open it up, it's really difficult as an average person to understand it. So you got to try to find the description, which will be written in plain English. Establishes a connection to a Microsoft Tabular Semantic Model data source. It's connecting to Power BI Desktop. Fine. And, we can accept that, sure. But it's also like sometimes there's going to be specific requests that you are not 100% sure. So it's always good, especially when it says run database operations or something like that, to see what it's asking to do. Here it's listing. It's just reading the actual items. That's fine by me. But there are acceptance requests for almost everything the MCP does. So, it's like just take your time to work through the different, requests to see if this is something that you will just auto allow or not. Generally speaking, auto writing is not recommended. You don't want MCP to just, to be able to change your model at will, but it's okay. So summary of just this connection, it's being connected to the local desktop. It's found the actual local host or port. The local host port is a specific value. And even if you use a different external tool like DAX Studio or Tabular Editor, it's going to use the same, it's like local host to actually connect to it. That's kind of how it works. And now it's connected to the Power BI desktop. It's connected to this. And now I'm going to show you how we can modify actual files. So other than the actual, it's like initial prompt that I showed you to change this to followers, let's try a very similar prompt where I'm saying, find this specific measure, modify it into a measure about likes using the icon thumb up line, this specific icon that I'm referencing, with navy blue and light gray and neutral color black. Let's try a line chart for the current year and columns for the past year, and we'll see how it goes. Now, the first thing that I kind of want you to realize is that this is, it's like running locally, but it's using Copilot to actually expose information to ChatGPT. So even though Copilot is a bit more so secure than anything else, I am going to say that you still should not put in, expressly data into this. It's probably not such a good idea to do that. There are, it's like ways that you can actually run this instead of using, it's like Copilot chat, to use something that is an AI running on your local machine. But in a lot of cases, if you're using a laptop or something, that might not be like the fastest, it's like process in the world. So we're going to see which one is going to be the best and most secure method for you to actually use this in the future. For now, I think it's, it's like completely okay to test this, it's like with your reports, as long as they're not, production level, high secrecy data, it's like reports. I'm not 100% sure I, like recommend anyone to do that just yet, but this is a report that I'm using specifically for conferences. So I figured, why not try it out here? So the one thing that I will tell you is that MCPs are great because they can do a lot of things. It's in agent mode right now. So it means that if I give it a larger task, it can do multiple different things. But you can kind of see that it's having some issues. Right now, it's, the actual prompt that I gave it was, say, let's try a line chart current year and columns for past year. It's come up with something that doesn't work. I think it should be like this specifically, or even line 3, I think, in order to actually, it's like make it work. But I have found that mostly everything else is working. So even though it should be line 4, even though the context it's there, unless you're extremely specific, you're not going to be able to get the actual, it's like outcome that you want out of the box. So this here, it's like when it actually, it's like came out, gave me a parameter that did not work. And even though it could have gone into, it's like the data and actually identified that it couldn't work, it still, it's like made an, it's like made a judgment call. It created a trial, it's like variable. And the next steps is to iterate through microchart types to identify what I should, it's like be actually using. And that's where it is right now. So how do you actually give it instructions to actually do something that is a little bit more, up to standard to how you would like to do it? Well, the first thing that you can actually do is to start adding instructions or, it's like kind of context. So when you click on this button here, add context, what it does is it allows you to actually add different images, different files and things. And you can just click, it's like files and folders to actually go to whatever files that you have either open in your Visual Studio Code or, I believe inside of your actual work project files. But you can also add context. So if I click add context for instructions, you can create specific file. So if you click on configuring instructions and click on new instruction file and save it in a specific area, like your project folder. Right now I have a project folder on my desktop called Power BI MCP project. It's going to create a folder in that, it's like a folder in that folder, and you can name that folder right here, which is going to be, it's like MCP instructions, and it's going to say, it's like apply this to something and provide context to the guideline that AI should follow when generating code. So I have already created one, and this is instructions for using the model only Power BI MCP, like what kind of, it's like scope it should be, general principles where the MCP should consider the single source of truth and never invent different model objects, etc., etc. Lots of different things. But here is where you can add more information, especially on something like, it's like if I'm making an SVG KPI card, what can I actually do? So now what I've done is I've added some information in my Power BI MCP instructions. When you're creating SVG and microcharts, you have this measure to not create new microchart types that don't exist in the SVG microchart library. So I'm going to go back to our actual Copilot and I'm going to add that as a context. So I've got this one open. I'm also going to add the image of all of the different charts that I have in my library as part of the context, and I'm going to give nothing else but the exact same prompt and see if there's any difference. So one of the things that's, it's like we had in the instruction was to prompt further when you're not 100% sure. So when parameter compatibility is not 100% sure, then if the chart type is not defined in the library, request clarification instead of generating unsupported code. And that's really helpful because now it allows me to actually have this, it's like option, which is they found the measure and they were able to identify the actual measure that should be the microchart has been set to this value. MCP rules note that this was used as a trial composite name, but it violates it. So to be compliant, either change this, it's like for one of the ones in the model, or create a composed library compliant measure, a new measure that, it's like uses only supported helpers to overlay a line, blah, 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 and in copy instead of overriding. So it tells me the different options I can do at this point. And I say, with the provided context, identify the chart with a line and columns and use that chart type. Oh, brother. I asked it to do this, it's like where it's just, it's just trying to, identify the chart with a line and columns and use that chart type. If you're looking here and you see the line and the columns, it's called bar 2. So if I change this to bar 2, then it would have given me the answer. However, what the MCP actually attempted to do was a bunch of things. I kind of, wanted to see where this would go, but it's created a brand new SVG. Let's take a quick look. So if we change the format, we go into our image and we have this value SVG 15. Now we're going to modify this and it's created something that I am not even sure exactly how it created. So it created a, it's like a microchart, but now the KPI is gone. There's no columns, and I guess it's using like this is very, very strange. And it's like this is one of the things that you need to be more careful about, because if you're using user-defined functions, it doesn't seem to be 100%. Now let's try again. We're going to say that this was just, it's like something that maybe we can still resolve by giving more context to the actual, it's like instructions file. So I changed this line 1 bar 5 back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that, when I am creating an SVG, I want to specify that they should use the user-defined functions. So now I've, added an extra line. When creating an SVG measure, prioritize using the existing SVG library or user-defined functions. Do not create custom SVG code unless absolutely necessary and explicitly requested. So we're just going to save this and we'll see how we do. I have had better luck before, but let's put this in. We're going to find this measure again. We're going to modify it to be about likes using this icon. Let's try a line chart and column chart combo. Okay, and we're going to add context for the screenshot and the instructions, and we'll see where this goes. I've got to tell you, it's like even with those instructions, what it's decided to do is it's decided to use this after all and use that chart inside of here, but it's somehow got the gradient. The icon is, it's like being used but is not visible. It has modified the format somewhat, but I guess it's kind of working, but kind of not. It's a little bit of a mess here. As a last desperate attempt, I'm gonna actually tell it modify it, use the original function. It's like park.svg.svg KPI card, which is the one that it should be using to make all of these. It's like different ones, but we'll see, and we'll see how well that it does, because one of the things that I keep finding is that it should be identifying the different microchart types, but I've already given it the context of this screenshot, but it doesn't seem to understand that these are the microchart types. It might also be that because it's on the free version, it's only able to use, it's like the slightly smaller models than, it's like the flagship ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. And that might be one of the reasons why it's being a little bit slower. Yeah, like this is the one thing that I will tell you, it's like if you have, it's like been using AI to work with Power BI to ask about DAX, about things, then, it's like one thing that you'll probably have noticed is that it doesn't work 100% out of the box. It never has. And then MCP connecting directly to your Power BI desktop will not change that fact. However, I am still able to, it's like iterate over it. I don't have to copy and paste things. So, the workflow is honestly quite a bit better. I'm saying, hey, look, modify it to use the original function, it's like, and it's able to do that. It came up with something that I'm not too happy with. The first time it put in microchart 2 as the microchart value. Microchart 2 is a measure that exists, but it's not something that works here. And then I say, take the name bar1, but etc. from here, from the actual screenshots, and it wasn't able to do that at that point. But then I said, look at the screenshot. Only these are valid. None of the microchart items are valid parameters for this field. Look at the UDF for context. And finally, it's being able to, it's like actually create this and we're gonna try, it's like one more time to put in that same, it's like functionality, it's like that exact same item here. So we're going to see if at this point it's able to actually, it's like deliver with a chart that is a line and column chart combination. We'll see. I, at the very least, want to make sure that this one prompt works before I try it on something that exists inside of the service. Okay, so short plan, list of to-dos. It's done a little bit more than I expected, which is first, it's using this original UDF wrapper. It's managed to identify that bar 2 is indeed the correct bar that we want to use. It's at this point trying to confirm if I want to apply now and validate, or if it should back up the value, or so what to do. I am going to say to update the measure to the DAX above because it seems correct, and that way it will have here you see it's also got a restore checkpoint, so you can actually go back to this point at any point in time, and that's really useful as well in my opinion. And it's like just as a functionality, if you are trying to vibe code an SVG using a it's like user-defined library, should be as easy as this. Okay, so let's see how it does. Is it able to change this number 1 to a number 2 so that everything works beautifully, or is it not? Oh, okay, so that's actually very funny. Right now we're going to update the measure to the DAX above, but what it's decided to do is it's decided to forget that it has the model context protocol. It's now trying to generate some Tyndall for me to copy and paste into. I gotta tell you, this is not what I expected. I'm gonna say, why can't you use the Power BI MCP to modify this measure? Yeah, right, because apply the change now, run the MCP. It's now created something else, a TMSL snippet inside of JSON to modify something. And okay, so we will see if it can work. So it says I can modify measures via the Power BI MCP, but only when the environment permissions let me connect to your running Power BI desktop model and you explicitly allow the change. This is very strange. So, it's like this is also something that has happened to me in previous versions when I was testing this, where the MCP kind of forgets that it's connected to my Power BI, it's like desktop. And I'm going to say, we're going to start over. We're going to say using Power BI, it's like MCP connect to the open desktop. It is possible that it's just timed out. Let's try that again. And we're going to see if it works or not. So we were so close. We had the code, we had, it's like everything done. But when I say using Power BI MCP connect to this open desktop, it's lost the plot. It said, I'm going to mark this connection step as completed in the to-do list and give exact local steps that you can run to connect to the MCP Power BI desktop file. I can't open your local instance from here. I mark the connection step in progress. I cannot open your Power BI desktop instance from this environment. So that sucks. That is incredibly disappointing that it's come to this. Now, not to worry. We've already seen that it does technically work. So we're going to open up a new instance. I'm going to close this, it's like chat instance. I'm going to close the previous chat instance that I had when I showed you for the intro, and I'm going to toggle chat into a new chat editor window because do not want to have it in the activity side. So we're going to add the context once again for the instructions and the image entry and say using Power BI MCP, connect to Power BI desktop. And I'm going to just try to see if I can say, it's like, etc. Find this measure, modify it to be a measure about followers using this icon with the forest green and light gray, what we did, what we had in the beginning. Let's try smooth. Let's try smooth dumbbell chart without points, and we'll just see if it works. Reference the image for micro chart type name, and we'll see if it doesn't, then I will be a bit more disappointed, because it's like obviously it can do things, but also very obviously maybe the it's like free version just is not good enough to actually work with it. So you can actually see that when I asked it to connect, now it's able to identify that there is an available connection, and it's still there, and it's going to it's like do that because inside of this session it still has some memory that it exists. So it's able to connect, it's able to find that measure, it's able to inspect it, and let's see if the update happens. And there we go. So the update has occurred, and it seems like the biggest problem is describing the microchart type. Okay, so relatively happy with this. I want to see now if we can actually connect. I'm going to publish the UDF v3 to my workspace, and we're going to see if we can modify this while in the service as well. Okay, so now I've published the UDF v3, and I'm going to say connect to UDF v3 in the Fabric workspace called my workspace, because this is just my workspace. I'm on the Fabric trial, and I want to see if the Fabric trial will let me actually connect to the MCP or not. Unfortunately, it does look like it's not possible to log in, and I'm not 100% sure if this is because I'm on the Fabric trial, but I was also on the Power BI Pro, it's like workspace, and I was not able to connect. So we'll have to see, it's like how this works out. I have also, unfortunately, run out of my monthly chat messages on the Power BI GitHub Copilot on the free version. So this is like one of the things that, it's like I would really recommend you to, it's like jump into, test some things out. Check out the link that I've sent in the description, because it's going to have a whole bunch of different information, and the, it's like actual Microsoft GitHub has a lot of really cool, it's like different things that you can try, like analyze, naming convention, and bulk rename. Now, I'm not 100% sure how happy I would be to bulk rename like 100 different measures and you wouldn't be able to find anything, but it's like things like setting descriptions or translating your semantic model or refactoring measures to use your calculation groups or user-defined functions. That sounds really, really cool. Or even, it's like benchmark your DAX queries against different models. It's like there are a lot of cool things that you can try, and I really recommend that you do. I just wanted to show you this as someone who has basically just started jumping into, it's like MCPs on its release this week in November 2025. And I hope this quick start guide was enough to get you started, enough to show you that context is still going to be key, it's like when you're actually going to start using it for your Power BI semantic models. And of course, the thing that we hope the most is to get something where we can use an MCP to modify Power BI visuals directly, but probably that's going to take a little bit more time until we get something like that. Thanks for watching, and have a really good one. If you want to learn more about the actual it's like SVG user library, you can go check out my classroom at school.com, and you'll have all the files there. Thanks, and take care.